This is what I have. So we'll look at the agile development model.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just have like agile values. So we'll just touch upon the agile values. Okay, and then the agile execution. Uh,
Yeah.
so we have just come up like we are using a customized form of execution. Okay, that makes sense for our projects. Uh, so yeah, so the reason I mean like we just adopted the agile values is we have done like with our 20 years of experience, we have done like for the last 4 years. Uh, I've been doing the agile execution in all my projects. Okay, so in all my portfolios which I've been managing, we've been doing agile model development. Okay,
Yeah.
with that, time and again, like it kind of just proven and demonstrated that these values are kind of like time tested, and it just like make it just like stand on its own, right? Uh, so it is kind of considering individuals and interactions more important than the processes and tools, right? So these are set of team members working together, right? And these are all uh, collaborative work is very important, right? And then all this team work together and help each other and understand each other's dependencies, right? And the interdependencies of the entire team, right? So that more that working like that collaborative work produces the synergy which we really uh, need for the successful delivery. Okay,
Yeah.
so it is over process and tool. So doesn't mean the process and tool is less important. It's just that like we kind of value the left more than the right. Uh, so we'll kind of customize the process and the tool to align with the style of the project team, right? Like of
Yeah.
okay, uh, working software over comprehensive documentation. So what it means is we just do quick like week on week. We will show a working demo of what we are building. Okay,
Okay.
so this is not like, so we don't look into rather than looking into just the theoretical information, right? And also the documentation of the people, we'll kind of demo the working model which we are building. Okay, so again and then the customer collaboration over contract negotiation. So it doesn't mean that we'll not have a contract. Like we will have a contract with the basic, I mean, some basic principles and also primarily, see if you look at project management, primarily there are three constraints in project management. Okay, so think of it like it's called as triple constraints of project management. Okay, so that is what uh, scope, schedule, and efforts. Okay, scope, schedule, efforts. So these three is called as triple constraints, because if you vary any one, something else got to be varied, right? In other words, if you impact any one of this,
Yeah.
one of the other will also be impacted. Okay, so these
Yeah.
three
Yeah.
are in a fine balance, right? Scope of work, like what got to be done, right? Like what
Yeah. Yeah.
it
I
could be
understand.
scope of the product, or it could be the scope of your tasks within the project, right? So in our agile world, so we use a futures list. Okay, so we will come to it like in the next slide we'll go over the details. Okay, scope, timeline, and efforts. Okay, so at the task level, at the day-to-day level, and at any request level, I mean if there's any change, right? I mean change to any one of it will have an influence over the other. So
Yeah.
that is where we typically, I mean, when there is any request for change, right? We respond to the change, right? Like we respond to the change by immediately looking at how the other two parameters are being influenced by this change. Okay, and
Yeah.
now for that, now we are developing something complex, right? I mean, like when we are developing something complex, we also need that engineering knowledge of it, right? And also the engineering experts kind of involved in that, right? So we immediately work with our technical experts. We can
Yeah.
walk them through on what is changing and then seek their inputs, right? So it is
Mm-hmm.
a collaboratively, we all like work and get the inputs of all the experts, okay? And then like we will look at how to accommodate the change, right? So
Mm-hmm.
um, so like well, this value and the items on the right, we value the items on the left more. So this is primarily the agile values. I think you have any questions on this, Joshua?
No, no.
All right. Okay, so in the agile execution, so you'll kind of see we do the sprint planning. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
the first part is, so there is three parts to it: planning, sprint planning, right? And then the development, the execution, and then the final the releasing, right? Like release. uh, so now, okay, project kickoff and initiation with the clients, okay, and then we create the future list. So in fact, in the proposal phase itself, like we will see, like you will see that we will try to jot down the future list. So it's list of future and the description of the future, right? At a high level and also at a meaningful level, okay. So we kind of like document the future list, right? So that forms the basis for the scope, okay. So that is the
Mm-hmm.
scope of the work which we are agreeing on with the customer on the project, okay. And then once it's kicked off, and then we create the information architecture. So information architecture is nothing but like from a user perspective, how, what is the application which they are going to look and feel, right? And uh, what is the blocks of information, okay. So
Okay.
it is at a high level, you kind of paint those boxes of like the pages, right? Like you'll kind of paint what pages they will see, right? And what components they will see, okay. And
Mm-hmm.
then you may also just like show how like they will navigate. So this just chunks, blocks of information within like the sequencing of it, okay. And how it will like look like, uh, just to get a feel, right? Like for the final product which you are going to see, okay. So um, that is
Yeah.
information architecture, okay. And then we'll create the wireframes. So wireframes
Uh,
is kind of, I mean, painting those pages to give a feel
yeah.
for the sections in the page and the content within the page, okay. So it is that wireframe, okay. And also as part of the
Mm-hmm.
wireframe, we will also do the mock-up design, right? So it is a UI prototype, user interface prototype. You also
Yeah.
see the screen along with it, right? uh, but now the thing is, the UI design can wait for as part of execution, okay. So we just kind of, I mean, as part of the sprint planning, right? Like we are going to know, like we're doing a planning on like what is in scope, what are the chunks of things we are going to do like in the next few weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of create wireframes and then the technical solution architecture, and then we create the detailed estimates, okay. And then all this is taken into consideration in the sprint planning, right? So you take, like you scope the futures and pages and services according to the estimates into each sprint, okay. And this is actually one of the leading causes of failure in agile projects. People jump into sprint planning just at a very high level, right? Okay, I got 10 futures, okay, I'll do 2 futures, and then the next two in the next sprint, and then like this many, right? So you just do math at a very high level, right? And then the team will struggle during execution because it was a poor planning. So rather than that, we kind of understand each future and then look at from an engineering aspect, like what are the pages
Mm-hmm.
it translates into, and the complexity of the technical solution architecture, like it involves that particular set of futures, right? I mean, again, then the associated technical solution architecture that is involved to realize this future. So you take that into consideration to create this detailed estimate. So detailed estimates would be like, would have a view of the work right from the user interface and then to the services and then to the integration work. And in the integration, what are the points like within the architecture layers, right? So there is HTML, like, so if you just take the example of e-commerce, right? So you will see HTML is the front end, okay, and then the HTML and CSS, okay, and also for your clients, like for the user interface level logic, you kind of use JavaScript to code in.
Yeah.
And then now you will have other layers. So there could be a business like web service layer, which will just like orchestrate all these technical components
Mm.
between the user and your server, right? Okay,
Yeah.
and then there's business services. Business services would involve the nature of the business. If it is retail, then the retail transactions related, like there could be the product, the commerce platform which we are using, okay, and then if there's some other businesses, you may just do it like the business services, okay, like that layer. And then finally at the back end will be your data stores, like your system of records, or you can call it like your product information management, like your PIM, or okay. And then in between that is where you have your CMS layer, content management system.
Yeah.
So where it is just like showing content to the user, right? Like
Mm.
so you kind of understand all this a bit to do a good sprint planning, okay?
Mm.
Because the team will have different skills. Like each member
Yeah.
will have different set of skills. So and there has to be a good coordination of the work among all these folks. Uh, okay, so we kind of arrive at the detailed estimates, and then you do the sprint planning. Okay, on like taking the scope, including which features, which pages, and which services according to the estimates into each sprint. Okay, and then we arrive at the number of sprints and the sprint schedule.
Mm.
Okay, so yeah, so and then in all the stages, you we review with clients. Okay, so it is a collaborative team approach. Okay, and also we got to do it within budget. So what it means is like you will kind of look at it to see how much level of details we got to go so that it kind of makes sense. Okay, so you don't um, that is where I mentioned about you do the UI design like as part of execution, right? Like when you start seeing is where you will get like more ideas on, okay, I think if this is of this color, it may be different, or if this, this placement. So we do the user experience and user interface design as part of the execution. So
Mm-hmm.
in the execution, uh, what we do in each sprint. Okay, so in each sprint, so we do design, we do coding and unit testing, and then the QA testing, and then demo to clients. So this is what in each sprint we does, right? So we are already identified the scope of the sprint. You already identified the pages and the services which you are going to build in the sprint. And now you do the design. So you kind of elaborate the wireframes with user story and technical requirements. Okay.
Mm.
And you create the UI prototype. User interface screens are being created in the design. Okay. And then now like the developers are also involved in it from a review standpoint, from an understanding standpoint, right? Again, and then they go and do the UI coding and unit testing of it, and then you do the services coding and unit testing, and then you put together both together, integrating both of it to see whether it is like doing right. So the developers look at it, right, and then the QA testers sometimes the QA testers will be involved earlier itself, like when the developers are doing the coding and testing, QA testers
mm,
will start creating their test cases. They'll start understanding the user stories and also the test cases. In fact, most of the times this is how we do. Okay, like where like both QA and developer, like both together are kind of involved in the design. Okay, so that they can start thinking about what like how they are going to do the coding, right? And then the QA tester will think about how they are going to do the testing and then jot down some test cases, okay, which will kind of validate the user stories, right? Within the user story, you have the acceptance criteria. So the acceptance criteria are the ones the QA testers are going to validate, and then the acceptance criteria are the same thing where the developer is going to validate as part of their work. Yeah.
mm,
Okay. So
yeah.
QA testing and then the execution, and then you show the demo to the clients, right? So we kind of like do it in a very short time frame, like within like in a 2 weeks time frame, right? Like sometimes
Mm,
at later stage you may be able, like we may be able to do in a week itself, but typically like 2 weeks is a time where you can kind of do all this to show a demo to the clients. Okay, and then if there are any feedback comments, we log it into the improvement log. Okay, so we kind of maintain an improvements log, and we will now determine items for what to include into the next sprint, right? And then some of it could be very minor, you can just immediately include, uh, fix it as part of the sprint, and then some of it will need some more elaboration of it, right?
mm,
We kind of determine that items of including into next sprint, and then we have a team discussions around, so which is often called as a retrospective on what went well and what went wrong, and then what are the opportunities to become more effective. uh, so yeah, so this is the sprint cycle, right? So in each sprint, whatever the scope, like the features, the pages, and the services you have identified, they kind of complete it and show a demo, right? So now this is a working software, right? So within 2 weeks, like so they see the progress. Okay, so you don't
mm,
have like you're not looking into, you're not only, I mean, you're just not relying on the word of the mouth of the people. Okay, so it is a working software we are demoing, and then
mm,
that is a measure of the progress. Okay, so and the cycle be repeated for the total number of planned sprints. And yeah, and then finally we do the user acceptance testing, because now customer may want to see like test on their side, like fully for certain period of time. Okay, so we kind of agree with them on what is their comfort level, what is their desired level of testing, right? Because it may vary from organization to organization. So customer organization, if it is small, they could be just like one product owner, like would be end to end like knowledgeable, so they will just like do in few hours or few days. Okay,
mm,
but then if it is an organization with multiple groups involved and subject matter experts involved from various organization units, then their UAT will be like spanning like few weeks, and also in some large organizations few months as well. Okay, but yeah, but nevertheless, these are the items which we look for, like final systems integration testing, performance testing, and security testing, code. Okay, and then the fixes for the code as part of this testing, and then the regression testing. Regression testing is nothing but like when we do now, when we release, like when we fix the code, we may the we may break something which we are already working, right? Because of maybe poor impact analysis, or because of some complexity. Okay, so which people might have overlooked. Okay, so you again run through the test cases, or to see whether the previously passed test cases are again passing. Okay, so in the last 3 years, I mean, like we were doing in a very rigorous fashion, like on the projects which I was executing. So we'll have a weekly run of the regression test cases. right? So any build from the development team, the QA team will do a full complete run of the test cases, what what they have, right? And then you'll keep like logging the defects, and then you will triage, and then like you'll say, okay, so this is a regression defect or this is a new defect. Okay, so and then we will kind of monitor the metrics on what is the percentage of regression defect we are injecting, or what are the new defects that are being found. Okay, yeah, and then finally the release. Okay, and now based on
1 second, friend. Okay. No, go on. Santosh came into the office.
All right, so that is again, then it's ready for release. Okay, and then like based on the engagement type, I mean, like if you are going to do support and maintenance, so that is that's it, right? Yeah. So that much on the Agile model of execution, what I have been following in my projects. Okay, any questions?
No. Maybe
So,
one.
Tomorrow I will show you the sample of the information architecture and the wireframes. Okay. And the UI prototypes. I'll just like show a sample, okay, because that's what we'll be using it for our template.
Yeah.
All right.
No, not now.
Okay. All right.